Namaste, Queen Yoga Bee here. Thank you so much for choosing my channel today. And I want to remind you that if you subscribe to Queen Yoga Bee, then you'll have all of my lessons right at your fingertips. Today's lesson, I'm calling Butterfly Swan Flow. Really easy. It's for your hip range of motion. So I don't really call it hip stretching because you stretch muscles, but you don't stretch tendons and ligaments. And I'm all about trying to keep your hips stable, especially since I'm 70 and having stable hips is a big deal. I see so many young or even older people who are so hyper flexible that they don't keep their hip exactly in the socket like they should. So a range of motion is a good stressor to stress your tendons and ligaments, but we don't want to stretch them. They aren't meant to stretch. They're supposed to keep everything intact. But it does stretch the muscles that are attached to the tendons. So anyway, this is called Butterfly Swan Flow. And we're going to start out with your breath in butterfly. So I recommend that in this flow, you spend about 3 breaths. So if you had a chance to watch my Just Breathe video, it's about the techniques that I use in my yoga class. And the most important technique that I use is Ujjayi breath. I use it all the time, especially in a yoga flow, or even if you're still. So we're still right now in butterfly. All I want you to do is be mindful of your knees. You don't have to have your knees clear, your feet clear back here so it scrunches your knees. I want you to have good posture, be up on your sit bones. You can hang on if you wish. You can even put a bolster behind your bum to kind of sit you forward on your sit bones. All of that's optional. But we're going to close our eyes, and all I'm going to have you do is remember that Ujjayi breath. I want you to inhale through your nose to about the count of 3. And exhale through your nose, also to the count of 3. So when you do it this next time, I want you to target your upper soft palate, and it's going to make a vibration sound that kind of like a soft ocean wave. It makes the same sound when you exhale. That vibration on your vagus nerve sends a message to your entire system that everything's okay. The asanas, the poses that we do, are sometimes hard. That's the stress. What we're trying to do is balance the ease of your breath with the effort of the pose. So here goes. We're going to Ujjayi breath first, and we're just going to be in a nice butterfly. Inhaling and exhaling through your nose. And you can close your eyes if you want. It makes you way more aware of what's going on. Not just your breath, but you can also feel everything physically better. About 3 breaths. An inhale and an exhale is 1 breath. From here, we're going to turn it into a moving pose that sometimes is called rockin' cobbler. I call it rockin' butterfly, because you don't really need to give this Baddha Konasana, butterfly, cobbler, 3 names. 1 will work. So I'm going to inhale, come forward up on my sit bones. Remember, to the count of 3. I'm going to exhale and come back. So my next breath, really be sure that you're pulling. I'm going to pull myself all the way forward till I stop. And then I'm just going to resist myself. And then when I exhale, I'm going to come back and make my arms really straight. And now I'm stretching my shoulder blades. We're going to do 1 more breath. Inhaling, come up to center. Arch your back slightly. Exhale, back. So your next pose is Sleeping Swan. So in my class, you can do several versions of Swan. Swan is also a pigeon pose. So this right here, I call Sloppy Swan because I don't have my shin parallel or to the front of my mat. You can, I'll fix it. And I don't have this back leg flat. So traditionally, Sleeping Swan, your back leg is flat and you're leaning forward. That's pretty tough for most people's hips, especially if you aren't used to it, and we're going to work on the range of motion, but we're not going to crank your hip around so that you do stuff to it. It's going to be very gradual. So it's okay to have this leg just kind of in neutral, and your foot can be turned out. So you're going to target your thigh. All you're going to do is go into this pose as best you can, belly on your thigh. Now, I want your head on the ground or touching something. This third eye, I would like it to have some pressure on it. So you can stack your hands if you want. You can put a block, if I can find a block. Here we go. You can put a block underneath your head. A lot of people do that. And you also don't have to keep your leg out here. If you want to tuck it in, you can. That's totally up to you. Be aware that your knees should not feel funny when you do this. So, that's an option. You can stay here for 3 breaths again. One more breath. Inhaling to the count of 3. Ujjayi sound. Exhaling to the count of 3. Now I'm going to come up, come back to center for butterfly. So I'm just going to center myself and think about where I started and connect again with the rhythm of my breath for just 3 breaths. Inhaling, making that ujjayi sound that only I can hear. Exhaling. Go through your nose. That's our second breath. One more. Now we're going to do that rock and butterfly. Right, inhale, come forward, exhale, back. Inhale to the count of 3. Exhale, count of 3. One more. Inhale. Exhale. On your next inhale, you're going to turn this into sleeping swan. However you did it on the other side, try to match it as close as you can. I'm going to forward fold this time and put my head here, a little further down. If I want more, I can always straighten my back leg, put it face down on the ground instead of out to the side. Let's do 2 more breaths. Inhaling to the count of 3, ujjayi breath. Exhale to the count of 3. Inhale, exhale. Next inhale, come up to butterfly and start all over. You can do this as many rounds as you want. I keep it simple because it's too hard to keep all that stuff in your head. I think 3 poses is enough to put in a flow. If you do this every single day, it's going to increase your range of motion, make your hips feel better. It stresses them just enough to tighten some of those things around there, tendons and ligaments and muscles, all that stuff. But it also restores you with this wonderful ujjayi breath. I totally recommend doing that everywhere, whether you're in a flow or a holding pose, whatever works for you. Anyway, I've enjoyed our time together. Hopefully you learned something, and I made it easy, so no excuses. You can do this. Namaste.